Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl, Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, the ocean exploring, I don't know, are you a pirate on an e-foil? Shoots? Karl Bryan is back into home territory, folks, after a week away to Colombia. Welcome back.
There you go. Colombia, e-foil. Buddy, I was at an e-foiling retreat in Colombia. Not many people can say they've been to an e-foiling retreat in Colombia.
I bet you only the people that went can say that. Right?
It was cool.
How many people were there?
10 all over the world. Latvia, Poland, and France. And 10 people.
Okay, so give me who was the best and who was the worst e-foiler by country. Let's go.
Best US by a country mile. Second, Latvia.
Oh.
And the worst, I don't know. There's a couple that lag behind a wee bit, but I wasn't one of them, to be clear. But anyways, but it was bloody fun. It was good, man. It was good. Part of it is we do a 16-mile trek in the middle of the ocean on an e-foil. You don't know what an e-foil is. It's just a electric surfboard. And I'm telling you, man, this is the middle of the ocean. And we've got two boats. We got a catamaran, and then we got the trailing boat. But the problem is some people are really fast and some people are really slow. So we totally get separated. And you're in the middle of the ocean, and it wasn't exactly calm by any stretch of the imagination. And it's like, whoo-wee. Oh my God, I was pooping my pants at one stage. I ended up on about a 5-foot wave. And I thought to myself, this could be the end. This could be, because if you wipe out, again, there's not a lot of help coming anytime soon. Because again, the boats are all separated. I don't know. I'm sure they'd find, anyway, it was a little bit crazy, man. It was a little bit crazy, but good news. It was pure. And then when you get, it's one of those ones when you get back, you're like, whoo, oh my gosh. I saw a turtle. I swear, man, I've seen a few turtles in my day. I pass them all the time. And I saw a turtle, nearly smoked him, by the way, but right in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean. And he was huge, like the size of a picnic table, huge. And I'm going to guess very odd looking colors, etc. And 50 years old. Shoots. It was amazing. It was cool, but there you go. That was it.
There you go. That sounds like one heck of a trip. Any other, anything else you want to share? Like what kind of what you guys did, and maybe did you guys go out to the bar or anything after? And are you still off the sauce, by the way? Like what's going on here, Shoots?
Went to at Colombia. If you've ever seen Miss Universe, you might notice that there's a Colombia. It's not often, it's not uncommon for the Colombian representative to be in the final three, if not the winner. And I'll tell you, we went out to a nightclub. Holy smoke, Shoots! It was. There's 3 women to any guy in the joint, and by the way, it's Cartagena is where we were, and this bar that we went to, my buddy, the guy that we were with, he's a bit of a big deal there. Gets us straight in. It's like a top 5. I think it's ranked number 7 in the world bar. And it was pretty cool, Shoots. It was pretty cool. But they're singing like their Spanish music, and everybody's singing and carrying on. And it's quite the sight to behold, Shoots. I'll send you a vid. It was wild.
Having experienced the odd bar with KB in the past, did you exit the same door that you walked in through, or was that a separate door?
I was fine, Shoots. Well, incredibly well behaved. Incredibly well behaved.
That's a story for another day of me going to the bathroom and then getting a text from Karl saying, "Yeah, I'm out front." Anyways, that was epic. That was epic. So what you like you mentioned you guys did like a bunch of like yoga and
Yeah,
like singing kumbaya. Like what's going on here? What were you guys?
yoga, meditation. That was cool, man. It's a retreat. It was wild. It was wild, man.
Okay, well,
Crazy.
perfect segue, shoots. The Zen master. Let's go.
No,
Like if you're in the middle of the Colombian rainforest, I don't even know if that's a thing, but it is right now in my mind. And you guys are all there in a circle holding hands and zenning out. What's your Zen thought of the day?
oh, shoots. I should have been prepared for this one. I'll tell you. But I tell you, I did do. Like again, you're doing, meditation and yoga. Um, remember, inner peace is not owning nothing. It might be actually detachment is what I want to say. Detachment is not owning nothing. It's nothing owning you. Okay, that's the great Buddha. But really, it's stop looking, right? Like Al-Anon, I've got my old man. He's, like what I call him the grand poobah of AA. I know a thing or two about Al-Anon, as I may or may not have alcoholism running through my family. Very grateful that it doesn't run through me. But anyway, so Al-Anon, that's the family version of AA. They teach you that an alcoholic has three things. They're restless, irritable, and discontent. Like most people live in like mediocrity, and then I don't know that they ever work out why. And my thought is they have a list, like you got a business, you have a list of prospects, and you spend time looking for new ones, right? You have a career, they have a career, and they spend time looking for a new one. They have a new house, a new house or a nice community, and they spend time looking for a new one, right? They've got a good job looking for a new one. They got a great spouse looking for a new one, right? The list is endless. And I just think that people are, they have this endless number of options that totally freezes them. And they got these options that are available, and they just endlessly working out which one of them is the best, or really, in many cases, they think they're looking for the best, but in many cases they're looking for the easiest. And in translation, they never focus. They don't get focused, right? And complementary and insanely profitable advice to that is don't do what you love, do what you're good at, right? So you see a billionaire talking, they'll always tell you do what you love and never work a day in your life. But if you reverse engineer what they're doing, they did not do what they love to get to where they're at in the billion-dollar status, $100 million to do, right? What they did is they did what they're good at, right? I think the real money shoots, I think it's in being good and then moving towards great, right? And I just, in some Zen, as I sat there, again, doing a lot of meditation and just, I don't know, reverse engineering or thinking things through, thinking deeply, both on an e-foil in the middle of the ocean, thinking, oh my God, I hope I don't die. And also, meditation with a gal who speaks Spanish, by the way. She speaks Spanish. She does not speak a lick of English, which is, rather rare. Have you ever been to Mexico, right? Like everybody speaks English in Mexico, or at least everybody who you deal with, right? It's not the case in Colombia. I'll give you the red hot tip. That is not the case. And my Spanish is not good, and it's even worse than I thought it was. But anyway, so in some shoots, stop looking, start focusing. Don't know how revolutionary that is. In fact, it's not revolutionary in any way, but just stop the looking. You're in get a great neighborhood, enjoy it. I often, I go for a walk, and one of the things that I'm trying to do, is I kind of, quote unquote, zen out and just become a little calmer in between my ears. It's like, feeling my feet under, feeling the sand underneath my feet as I walk along the beach, or feeling the grass underneath my feet as I walk along. It's like, just enjoy what you got, enjoy you're never going to be like, I'm going to finish off with this, shoots. I think this is, you're never going to be a second, a minute, or a day younger than you are right now. So you might as well, like, again, you think about, remember when you turned 30 and you thought, oh my gosh, right? You turned 40 and you thought, oh my gosh, I'm so old. It's just, you just enjoy exactly where you're at, what you're doing, and gratitude is an absolute superpower. The ability to genuinely feel gratitude is an absolute superpower. So there you go, Shoots. That's going to be my answer. What do you think?
I think you have zenned out so much since you entered your 60s. It's unbelievable, bud. Like, it's truly. Is that what happens when you hit 60? Like, you just sort of like life slows down? Is that what happens?
Shoot.
Anyways,
Apparently.
he's not 60, folks. He's 65. All right. So speaking of anything but Zen, for those keeping score, the United States just recently had an election. And that is that is anything but Zen. But I just wanted to ask you, because typically I know you don't just look at the surface of things, you're looking kind of beyond the surface. And I'm pretty sure if I asked you if there's any nuggets that you picked up and learned from this political season, I'm sure there's a few things there.
Oh yeah, I would say so. It was a little crazy. Shoots. We try to stay away from politics, but what the heck? Look, here would be my answer. First of all, Kamala Harris, she's getting hammered. My opinion, the truth is she did the best she could with what she had. She's not an aspirational figure, and I don't think she's ever pretended to be. Remember Joe Biden said he was going to be your transitional president? I think he used different words than that, but at the end of the day, he was basically going to be, maybe he referred to it as a bridge, but your transitional president, right? And then when it came down to it, it came down to the time to step down, find a successor. He changed his mind and didn't move aside until he was forced to. And yes, he was absolutely forced to, right? Despite declining health, thank you very much, mate. So, right? So there's 100 days to go. She was put in a spot. She's getting a bit of a hard time. And I don't know. I just think, to be fair, it's like you got to look at it, the whole body of work. And the other thing is, my opinion, like in 2020, literally wrote an email out, afterwards, and it was like, here's my take for what it was worth. But it's like, people voted against Trump, not for Biden, my opinion. Feel free to disagree, right? But I believe it was a vote against Trump, right? Well, the thing that I do enjoy about what just happened is that I believe it was a vote against the establishment as much as it was for Donald Trump, right? People were voting against the establishment, because the big movers, they talk about the swing states, right? The swing vote. I will tell you that the 18 to 35-year-old male that we have talked about on this podcast many a times, they're playing video games and smoking pot in their parents' basement. These are the guys that otherwise would have, stayed playing video games, who got up, went down, filled out the ballot, and voted. Do you know what I mean? When they otherwise might not have. And again, because these guys, they're struggling. They can't afford a house, and they don't see a path to do so, right? And when you can't afford a house and you don't see a path to do so, I got to tell you, if you understand anything about dynamics between men and women want to be, like, they want to be looked after, right? Well, this guy doesn't feel, you know what I mean? Like his romantic prospects don't feel and look that great. And by the way, don't listen to what I'm saying. You do your own homework and then you tell me, but I think that's what the data suggests in a very real and meaningful way. So anywho, I'd also say this, that look at an election, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're marketers, business coaches, consultants, marketers. Our job is to help people grow businesses. An election is there anything that could be more insanely competitive, right? And I think that we should all be watching, learning, and trying to go, what could we learn about business? What could we learn about messaging? What could we learn about marketing, right? And what would that be? Well, remember, Trump's first activity in 2016 was to create a catchy slogan that, in his opinion, would evoke emotion amongst voters, and the voters that he was going for, which are Republicans, right? And what was that? Make America great again, right? And other examples, you deserve a break today. Ross Perot, when he went to get elected, guess what he did? The exact same thing. And his was, I may not get this word perfect, but United We Stand America, right? Nike's got Just Do It. Apple's got Think Different, right? When I built a $5.5 million coaching company, we used to do 400 grand a month. These are retail coaching sales, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I had a very long kind of catchphrase, and then I weeded it down, and I got it to 4 words, and it was no results, no fee. And quite frankly, those 4 words made me like put millions of dollars into my bank account. So no results, no fee worked very well. That was the framework, right? And also, so that's like messaging, and no doubt there's tons that you could take away from something as competitive an election. But I will tell you this also, new tech emerges, it seems like every political season. And then why? Because it's the competitive advantage, right? So JFK used TV and no one else was really using it, as I understand it, right? Clinton used radio, Obama used Google, Trump used Twitter in 2016 to get elected. And then what did he use this time? He podcasts, right? Kamala didn't, and Donald Trump did. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And by the way, I literally heard like they were running around, let's just call looking for bragging rights around their ground game. Okay, so they're knocking on doors, walking, around suburbia, knocking on doors and saying, vote, 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 can we drive you? Can we wheel your wheel? You know what I mean? If you can't get out of the house, we'll come and help you. Cast your ballot, cast your ballot, cast your ballot. And Donald Trump is on a podcast with tens of millions of people listening and then sending to their friends, etc. Right? So I'm going to say that, so this, by the way, to people much smarter than I, but they will tell you that podcast had a lot to do with making that happen. So there's, that's what I would say. And I do want to say this about political season and what I'm hearing and what I see. Everybody is running around and saying that we are going to have an economic boom. And by the way, I believe that. And for a period, and even Democrats will, like, not even, but Democrats are saying that there will be a bump. I believe that there will be a bump. Donald Trump is saying that there will be a bump. And I think there already has been a bump, right? But here's the thing, bad times, okay, 9/11, where does it come from? And let me tell you, it's a left hook in the jaw. Where does COVID come from? Left hook in the jaw. .com crash in 2000. Punch in the jaw, right? So everybody was calling for an economic downturn over the past, number of years. And what happened? And the answer is not that, right? And I only say that because I feel like in the environment and the climate and what I'm sensing is that everybody's taking their chips and they want to slide them into the middle on Bitcoin. And they want to slide them in the middle on real estate, and they want to slide them into the middle for the market and stocks, etc. And we've given different some financial quote unquote advice, not an accountant, not a financial planner, not pretending to be, and we've given a lot of it and been praised pretty wildly for some of the predictions that we've made around here. And I just want to say that I do think that there are going to be I think there's going to be some great economic times, right? But when everybody is talking about how amazing the economic times are, maybe, I want to throw a little bit of caution to the wind. So before you take all of your dough and your savings and go all in on real estate, all in on the stock market, certainly all in on Bitcoin, I just want everybody to just think, hang on a minute. There's no magic going on here, and the 9/11, it's not something that you predict. And when you're reading when everybody's talking about this is coming, or this is the way it is, my money says that you should I just want you to be a little bit, your clients, I want them to be a little bit cautious. I want you to be a little bit cautious. Road Dog and I are going to be a little bit cautious while still being optimistic, because the optimistic folks being optimistic, it adds to your IQ and it can be incredibly good for your net worth, but I just want you to be cautious. So, and the Road Dog, it's always funny, right? Let's just say this. So people will say, what do they say? When the market drops, that's when I'm going to go in. When real estate corrects, that's when I'm going to go in. When Bitcoin comes back to reality, that's when I'm going to go in, right? And then what happens? Bitcoin drops, real estate drops, the stock market drops, and they don't go in, right? So, translation, I just, know thyself. Let's just say that. Know thyself.
Let me jump in here for a quick sec, because I do want to tap into that for a second, like just in the, what the solution is to people always saying, I'm going to do that, I'm going to invest in the market drops. Before we go there though, you're making a very important point here. And the point is, everyone can say the market's going to do good things, the market's going to do bad things, my products are all good, my products are all bad. This reminds me very much of a story that I'd really like you just real quick, and then we're going to get back to this, just touch on real quick in regards to the conversation, Nike and Apple, the Phil Knight and Steve Jobs conversation. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right?
Want me to go?
Cool. Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. So Phil, this is, I wasn't there clearly, right? But this is a story. It's, it's out there. Go research it, right? But Phil Knight and Steve Jobs having a conversation, and Steve says to Phil Knight, owner of Nike, right? Steve Jobs, Apple, obviously, and he says, Phil, you've got some, at Nike, you've got some wonderful products. And Phil's like, oh wow, okay, cool, thanks. I really appreciate that. And he says, you know what? You've also got some real duds. And Phil's face no doubt drops a little bit. He says, you know what you should do? And Phil says, what? He goes, just keep the real good products and axe all the stuff that sucks. Right? And Phil Knight's like, okay, I don't know how to feel about that. So Phil Knight goes back to the office and he basically looks up on his wall and he sees 100 shoes. Right? And he's like, you know what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And all of a sudden he realizes that Steve Jobs is right. And of course, the 80-20 principle, which is a universal law, not an opinion, holds true, where he's like, gosh, you know what? We've got 20 shoes that I'm really proud of. And I'm proud to put, the Nike emblem on there. And then I've got 80 that are not so good. And you know what he did? Basically, Phil Knight basically decided, then he goes, you know what? The 80 are going, the 20 are going to stand. And then effectively what they did is they became a, I'm going to call it a luxury sports brand. I think that might be a slight exaggeration. I don't think they're competing with Louis Vuitton or pretending to as a luxury brand. But, if you do go have a look at Nike and find me an inexpensive t-shirt, find me an inexpensive pair of shoes, and you're going to battle, right? Like basically what they have is they have high-end stuff. And by the way, when Steve Jobs, this is just after I believe Steve Jobs went back to Nike, which I think was in 1997, went back to Apple, 1997. What did he do? They had 100 products and he axed 80 and kept 20, right? Or he kept 20% of the products and axed 80%, whatever the number is. And by the way, apparently it worked out pretty well. And to this day, they've held strong on that, whereby if you go into the Apple store and have a bit of a look around, you are going to find that, for the numbers and the revenue that Apple pull, when you look at the number of products they have, as in how few they have, it's absolutely bloody remarkable. Anyway, shoot, so I think that's what you're talking about. But yeah, Nike, Apple story, and that's it. Phil Knight goes back to his office and he axed 80% of the he axed 80% of the shoe line and 80% of the t-shirts, etc. And bingo, bango, bongo. So it's my answer, Shoots.
Okay, so now coming back to what you were saying, because we hear it all the time. You know what, Karl? I'm going to invest in real estate when the market corrects, when the market drops. Like, how's that working out for you? Like, and there's times it does, right? They're always, well, maybe not so much in real estate in Kelowna, anyways, but typically. But what's the solution to this? I'll invest when the market drops, and then they just don't. Do you have a frame for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because look, again, I'm going to invest. The same person that will keep saying that is the person that, won't drop the hammer because they think that it's going to drop further. Well, actually, I don't even know. I mean, ask them. But very common. Not my opinion. This is what the data says, and they stay out of the market and they're stuck, right? So look, it's a framework. right? So you want to help. And remember, your clients are ultimately looking to become wealthy, right? And wealthy, they're looking for freedom, not looking to become rich. They're looking to become wealthy. And ultimately what they're looking for is their definition of freedom. My definition of freedom, Road Dog's definition of freedom, your definition of freedom, going to be different, but similar. You know, as a saying, you know, you always say this, you can get lucky and make it, but you can't get lucky and keep it. So having a framework. A framework would be dollar cost averaging, right? Warren Buffett, that's Warren Buffett, not me. And just simply put, you're going to invest in the stock market, take 100, take 500, take 1,000 every single week, right? Let's just call it $100 a week for the sake of the argument. And you take $100 a week and you put it into the index. You don't pick Apple, and you don't try to pick. What you do is you just take the average of the index, right? Is just the 500 top companies in the world. They always want to become profitable. They will always want to grow, and no recession, no war, no anything is going to change that, right? So you can always feel comfortable that they'll be doing their utmost to answer to their shareholders to be profitable and to grow. So Warren Buffett says, take $100 every single month and plug it into, plug it into the index. And that way, when it drops, you buy better. And then when it's up, you buy worse. And then what ends up happening is you end up right smack dab in the middle. And over the long haul, you'll end up, in Warren Buffett's estimation, you'll end up doing very, very well. Which, by the way, just don't worry about what Warren Buffett says. Certainly don't worry about what I say. Again, not a financial planner, not an accountant, not pretending to be. Go look at the stock market over the last 100 years and tell me what that would look like if you invested $100 a week. If your kids invested $100 a week for 20 years, the way that it would pan out. And the answer is, and by the way, it's the rule of 7. If you get a 10% return, you double your money every 7.2 years. 7 becomes 14. 21 years, unfortunately, flies by, and you get a double, and a redouble. And that is the way that you create incredible. Look, Warren Buffett will tell you that that's the way you create wealth for your family. You're not looking for home runs. It's like baseball. You're looking for singles. You're not looking for home runs. My software was literally built on on compounding, on marginal gains. You take small incremental changes in multiple areas, and then you get this massive exponential gain, like compounding. And you do it by hitting singles and bunting instead of trying to hit home runs in digital marketing. No staff, no training, no huge expenditures, and you get this massive uptick. So anywho, so that is, so a framework, like another framework as an example, like let's say you're going to put 100 grand into the stock market, sake of the argument. Well, a framework would be like, people who understand the stock market would tell you that you want to try and get your own money out. So if I put 100 grand in, if I could take, 20%, if I could take 20 grand 5 times out, what would be left would be all profit. And I'm literally playing with house money at that stage, and everything's free, right? So that would be an example of, that would be an example of a framework, a good framework, one that I would advise, not necessarily, again, not financial advice, not an accountant, but that would be an example of something that you could do, right? And by the way, some very smart, intelligent folks have done exactly that, especially with something like, if you're thinking like Bitcoin, I don't know, if you were going to invest in Bitcoin, I would be encouraging you, to look to be able to, pull out the hard cash you put in over potentially a period of time. Well, anyway, so that's an example, longer conversation. That would be an example of a framework, of a mindset going in, so that you could feel comfortable that you really couldn't lose that way, right? And by the way, actually, let me give you a better plan. Okay, how about this? Don't take any money out ever. Not Bitcoin. Let's talk real estate. Let's talk stock market. And that's not that I don't believe in Bitcoin, and it's not that I'm, but Bitcoin, the reality is there's a really, really good chance that at some stage it takes a pretty serious fall. So don't want to go there. But let me just tell you, so a plan. Old money equals never sell. If you've listened to the podcast for a period of time, you would have heard me say that. Old money equals never sell. Introduce me to a family with old money, and I will introduce you to a great 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 grandfather and a great 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 grandmother who had the guts not to sell. Right. So that, and again, rule of 7, because now it doesn't, it doubles, you get a redouble and another redouble. What ends up happening over, 21 years over, and then it's 28 and it's 35 and it continues from there. It just keeps doubling. So old money equals never sell. A better game plan, or a game plan to think about, is you put the money in, you automate the $100 a week as an example, if that's what you chose to do. And basically never touching it, never looking at it, so that emotion doesn't come into it, might be a better roadmap. But that would be an example of a framework, right? And by the way, invest with what I'm saying here. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Invest in evidence rather than investing in ideas. What I just gave you is an idea. I want you to go and do your own homework and have a look. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the stock market over the last 100 years hasn't, the trajectory hasn't been steady flow up. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I think use your instincts. But you know what I mean? Like go look for evidence, right? It's like a framework. Like my dad, real funny guy, very good at math. His IQ, he's nearly genius level. And like, he will tell you, and investing is something he likes to talk about. He would tell you that he hasn't done it all that successfully, but that's okay. But one thing he is into, like he's like the grand poobah of AA. Addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and then recovery is giving up one thing for everything, right? As in giving up the booze for everything, giving up the drugs for everything, giving up that one vice for everything, right? Like that would be an example of the framework that they give you. I don't know that they give you that going into AA. I'm not an AA. Like I understand AA at a pretty decent level because I just, proximity to my old man. But no doubt you can see how that's a little bit of a framework, right? Like, look, you just got to give this up and you can have everything, right? And then take one sip. And let me tell you, you're giving up everything again, because you're not going to have the one sip and then probably quit. It's normally a very, very slippery slope. And you don't become an alcoholic and then learn to control it. You become an alcoholic, stop drinking, and then you go back and it ends up being worse. There's your frame, right? I'm just, so off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of frameworks, right? I said earlier, billionaires will tell you, do what you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life, right? But when you reverse engineer what they did, that's not true, right? They did what they were good at, not what they loved. They did what they're good at, and then they segued into doing what they love. And I think they got it misguided, and it's amazing how they all seem to have amnesia. But by the way, don't listen to what I'm saying. Go do your own homework. You tell me if the billionaires are doing what they love or if they're doing what they're good at, right? Okay, framework. I feel like now I got to go to coaching, right? In fact, I had a friend, so we went away just e-foiling retreat. I went with a good buddy from here, and the guy that we go e-foiling with every Doug. Shout out to Doug, love the guy. And he would have got, he's a business guy, and he would have got, we were talking about business a lot, and I promise you, he would have got sick of me referring back to the framework of little red arrow, you are here, right? Like we got to assess where you're at. And then what's the second thing we got to do? We got to assess where you want to go, the destination. And then the coaching is the 2 points, right? But I said, okay, so assessing where you at. He owns a restaurant, right? So assessing, understanding the dynamics of the restaurant, the staff at the restaurant, the revenue at the restaurant, the cash flow of the restaurant, the exposure of the restaurant, the middle of the table of the restaurant. And by the way, if you saw my email of the last week, I did a restaurant case study over the course of a week, and I got a lot of positive feedback, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, might be worth going to have a bit of a look-see. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's coaching, right? Like that's a framework, 2 things. Give me 2 points. I got to establish point A, where you at, point B, where do you want to get to? And then the coaching is basically the point in between the two, framework. American Idol, 3 judges, 1 harsh, 1 even-handed, 1 nice, Paula Abdul. Right? Each show, if you look at it, had 2 bad contestants and 2 great ones, right? Love him or hate him, Simon Cowell and his ruthless remarks. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't stand this guy. I can't stand this guy. He made the show, right? Like when he left, It just was not it was not the same. And he gave heavy praise, when he felt, you know what I mean, high level, you know what I mean, when someone really kicked some butt and had a great story, he was more than happy to stand up. But generally speaking, he was pretty harsh, right? It made it work. It's like Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank. If he became a sweetheart, or Robert Herjavec became a real jerk, you know what I mean? Like the show wouldn't work the same. Like it's Mr. Wonderful has to be Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, or it wouldn't work the same, right? So anyway, it's the framework, right? Again, I mentioned earlier marginal gains. Like I built profit acceleration software with 12 key areas to dive into, reverse engineered the biggest companies in the world, the best coaching programs in the world, the best consulting programs in the world. And it was really simple. I just went to all of them and I'm like, these 12 areas keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. New program, but the same 12 areas there, without exception, they were there. So if you understand marginal gains, math, margin, remember, a lot of coaching, you'd be a lot better off to be concentrating more on math than some of the life coaching stuff, right, with your client. And it's just, at the end of the day, business is math. So small incremental improvements in multiple areas get these monumental exponential improvements, exponential jumps. Again, compounding. If you double a penny every day for 31 days, you end up with $10 million. But the problem is it's very unexciting until day 24, and then day 25 and 26, and it gets real exciting real quick. Remember, it's 10 million, it's 5 million, it's 2.5, it's 1.75, et cetera. Like it's not that exciting, not far away from the 10 million. Right? So the marginal gains, that's a framework. The software is built on a framework. And it's grade 8 math, it's not even algebra, right? We're talking about some basic math. So anywho, yeah, that would be my answer there, Shoots. If you're going to invest when the market drops, establish a framework of what that represents. A 5% drop, a 10% drop, a 15% drop, a 20% drop. But understand, if you're expecting a 20% correction, you might never get into the market, right? So then you're like, oh, okay, so what's the solution to that? The solution is what Warren Buffett's been saying for 60 years: dollar cost average the index, and you'll probably do significantly better. So there you go, Sheets. That's my answer, bud.
So as a former financial advisor, it's funny, it just listening to a lot of this, when you're talking about market, I always talk to clients about, it's one thing to chase the return, but on the other end of that, are you able to stomach the equal opposite? Yeah, you want a 20% return? You know what? You could lose 20%. And can you stomach that? Like there's a framework, right? Because you got to balance out the up and downs. And then the other big piece is, and as you're saying, establish like what that looks like when you're going to invest. You have to have that framework, because if you don't, guess what you're doing? You're following your emotion. And the biggest thing that screws people out of a lot of their portfolios is either fear or greed. And that's it, right? It's like, oh, this is only going to keep going up. Let's dump everything into it. And guess what happens? Right? Or it's like, oh my God, it's going down. And then they pull everything out when it rebounds, and you like, if you take a look, man, I'll pull this up for you at some point. If you take out, because a buddy of mine's a portfolio manager, and he like, if you take out the top, say 5 days, okay, of the market, it's amazing the impact it actually has on your portfolio. Like it's just
like crushing 5 days,
100%
crushing.
Wild.
Exactly. So you got it. Okay, solution. So the solution to that, tell me if I'm right here, Shoots. You gotta get, it's time and market. You gotta, it's the same when you go to Tony Robbins. He says, don't leave the room to take a leak. You know what I mean? Why does he say that? He goes, look, if you gotta go, you gotta go. Don't pee your pants. But if you don't have to go, don't go. Why? Because the breakthroughs won't happen in the washroom, they happen in the room, and you don't know when they're going to happen. You don't know when the penny's going to drop. You don't know when he's going to drop the one-liner. Somebody else is going to drop the one-liner where he's going to say something to somebody that's going to impact you more than it does the person he's doing the intervention on. Right? Time and dollar cost average is the solution, and then you won't miss. Warren Buffett's never going to miss those 5 days, right? And by the way, Warren Buffett, because his framework is never sell. Although, of course, I was talking about this on the e-foiling retreat, and the guy's like, yeah, but didn't he just sell like 100, like whatever insane amount of Apple stock? And I'm like, yeah, he did. But at the same time, he still owns a, impressive, portion of it. But at the end of the day, he's cashing up a little bit, right? I mean, he's balanced. He's not. Everybody's thinking that he's getting out because they think that the market, they think that he thinks that the market is, the butt's going to fall out of it. And, it's all over Twitter and it's all over Facebook, etc. And maybe that's what he's doing. But really what he's doing, he's got a framework and he's rebalancing his portfolio. That's what he's doing. Right? He's taking some money off the table. And again, he generally, if you look at what he's done over many, many years, he doesn't do that. But, maybe I guess what's happening is his framework is adjusting. But anyway, framework shoots. So
well, and again, frameworks, if we're strictly talking investing, frameworks in relation to the part, the chapter, if you will, the season of life that you're in. Obviously, the older you are, the less you can stomach higher risk. And that's it. So, and the biggest scam, which by the way, before I get to the one thing I really want to say here is, to your point, we had a saying that is, it's not market timing, it's time in the market. Right? And that's the big one right there. But the biggest piece that everyone misses, Carl, and this is in every aspect. This is for your coaching clients. This is for you if you're unhappy with your body. This is for you if you're out, looking for a partner, whatever. Where are you now? And then what do you want? Where do you want to be? And then in that gap, that's where you have to have the frameworks to get you there. That's it. Simple, right? Man, we just make this sound so easy. Like, it's unbelievable.
Shoots. It's framework.
Amazing. Like, and that's it, bud. Like, that's it. So maybe it kind of seems pointless now, but if I was to ask you what's the one thing that somebody could take from today's episode, I have a feeling if I had to, look into my little globe of the future here, I'd say you're going to say framework, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
I would. You know what? Speaking of frameworks, here I'm going to give a one thing that I didn't say that I feel like I should have. You want a framework for your coaching or selling your coaching. Money at a discount. There's a framework, right? So with our software, one of the things we always talk about is you find fees first, right? So how would you like to be able to find your fees before you get started with your coaching client? So being able to sell money to discount. So I get a room of 100 people. I hold up a 20. I say, does anybody want a 5? Initially, if they haven't seen the exercise before, they're all frozen. They're looking like, what the heck's going on here? And then somebody stands up, they run up, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. They swap me for the 5. Right behind that individual, they realize, oh my gosh, it's true. Everybody comes running up. The person does the exchange and everybody in behind goes, will you do it again? Will you do it again? Will you do it again, please? Right? So the frame is money at a discount, selling 20s for 5s, right? So that's what I would encourage you to be thinking about when you're trying to sell coaching. And again, the foundation of my profit acceleration software is that you're able to, create a money at a discount dynamic for your business coaching clients, right? Where you're like, look, I just found you X amount of revenue and X amount of profit. I am, you charge what you charge. Let's say you charge $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year. So you're 24 grand a year. And the question is, do you want to make this exchange? And that is an excellent framework for your coaching. So you are correct, Shoots. I am going to end with framework. But that's a great framework for selling coaching. And I just think that, like, when you create frameworks, really, system, you create really rules, by the way, would be, you've got culture in a company. If you want to know how to create culture in a company, you do it with one word, and it's rules, which people tend to either appreciate or not appreciate. Those that appreciate it are probably fantastic staff members. Those that don't appreciate might not be the best, and there is nuances here, but yeah, that's what you got. So framework shoots. That's my final one.
Get out your bingo cards, kids. Is it framework or is it little red arrow? It's hard to say. On that note, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Little red arrow, you just listened to it, and you got your frameworks in place. Hey, if you're not on the inside and you're not getting access to the pre-show, it's a little thing that we do for all the insiders. Or if you're not getting Karl's, daily emails with the one thing, or just looking to build, grow, and scale your coaching company, visit focus.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe, and also share with your fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate if you rate the episode as well, as we know that these streaming services all put a ton of weight there, and we are trying to make a massive impact on the coaching world. So please do us that solid if you enjoyed the podcast. And that is it for another week. Hard to believe. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. We'll see you in the next episode.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.